It's July 2006. This is the audio commentary for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I'm David Gregory, the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Shocking Truth, and I'm here with...
Toby Hooper, the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2.
Sally said she had broken out of a window in hell. The girl babbled a mad tale. A cannibal family in an isolated farmhouse, chainsawed fingers and bones. Her brother, her friends, hacked up for barbecue.
So let's start with a bit of background. You put off making this sequel for a little while, didn't you?
Yeah, it was like over 10 years. After Chainsaw, the original, was made, I think because of the documentary style of it, it was a little shocking, even though it was always on the charts and it kept being re-released. There was some reluctance to make the sequel by quite a few studios and companies. I think the whole thing was just too shocking to them back then, immediately after the original was made. So it found its own place and time, Part 2 did, and kind of its own decade that had its own political and moral fiber. This film, to me, seems to be true to that yuppieism kind of, in the way it was promoted, that kind of Breakfast Club gets all over the USA.
Yeah, because the theatrical poster was mimicking the famous Breakfast Club poster of the 80s with the Chainsaw family.
There's a lot of ironic dark humor in the original film. And I think it was so shocking in the 70s that the audiences just didn't see the dark humor. So I decided to make the dark humor a little darker and stand out a little bit more in this. Incredible production on this. And also meeting a release schedule. So we went through this rather rapidly, and actually, as the film's being shot, it's still being written and refined. New sets are being built on the spot, like the front of the whole two-story radio station. I couldn't find a place to shoot it, so we just built the facade of it. These guys loved making movies.
The Cannon guys.
Yeah, I mean, they just loved movies, totally loved cinema. And I feel that this is a work of cinema.
Chain.
Here we're showing a bit of Texas Road, like the same way that you start the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's not hippies, it's yuppies.
Yeah,
which is obviously, pointing out that we're now in the 80s. What was it about yuppies that you wanted to satirize?
Well, it wasn't so much as satirizing them as it's just that that's kind of what, that's the way life was then. It, to me, symbolized the 80s. Beamer bums,
Yep.
Hook 'em horns, baby. We are on our way to the biggest party of the world. Yeah.
Red River Rock and Roll request line is a stretch.
Now this is Caroline Williams. How did you find her?
Well, Caroline, I found in a casting session in Austin when I moved the company to Austin from LA to start shooting. Some of the casting was done there.
From the tip top of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
The actor that plays LG, Lou Perry, was there, and an old friend. He was assistant cameraman, grip, assistant, everything on Chainsaw 1.
Him.
Yeah, him. And had become an actor, and did a really splendid job as LG. I had to figure out a way to identify this character for later, when there's not much left of him, so you can't identify him visually.
Right.
So I had to give him certain traits, and then that's why he has the big LG tattoo. Mm-hmm. But his most identifying trait in this is his coughing up and hacking up and spitting all the time.
So he even does that when his face is ripped off.
Yeah, he puts the saw down, and yeah, Leatherface uses an electric knife.
Hey, check it out, dude. Let's play a little chicken with the farmer here. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Come on, man.
And also there was a familiar kind of Saw 2, as I recall, on the one sheets, a lot of one sheets and things. It was advertised as Saw 2.
Wasn't that the name that it became known as amongst you and the crew while you were making the film? It was just Saw 2 as opposed to, so you didn't have to keep saying the long title the whole time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was convenient and it sounded good.
LG.
Damn it, I'm trying, darling.
Don't call me darling, damn it.
Now, the difference between these guys and Marilyn Burns and co. in the original is that they are so obnoxious and annoying, you are dying for them to die.
That seemed to be happening in the 80s.
Yeah.
This is the facade that we built. And so, okay. Well, I mean, that is, I had to have that set in a week,
Mm-hmm.
And this is in the inside of the studio we used. Is the inside of the old Austin Statesman building that was the local newspaper for, I don't know, many years. And they moved to a new location, and there was this big sound stage like building left over with lots and lots of offices. The pit where they had all of the, the newspaper pressing machines. And so later that became the inside of the lair.
Hang it up, lame-o. Go call your mother.
I'm dirty, but this is for Rick the Prick. He wants to hear.
Carrie White, this production designer, is a world-class production designer, and who just happens to live in Austin because it's a cool place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm particularly happy with all the set dressing and the performances and the kind of bizarre, ludicrous behavior that the characters have.
Fuck? Are you crazy? Back up, big fucker!
This scene, I think, took about a week of night shooting to get all of these shots. And it's made up of this and the post this, which is the crashed Mercedes. It was made up of more than one bridge, a daytime bridge and a nighttime bridge.
Mm-hmm.
We totally flattened a couple of these little cars.
What the hell is that? Some kind of geek! The geek's got a... Come on, what is that? Come on, get out of here! Where'd he come from?
So this is the hitchhiker body?
Nubbins.
Nubbins?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
what they call him, Nubbins, yeah. Yeah, no, I have Nubbins.
Oh, you do?
And, yeah, I do. Yes, he's quite a conversation piece.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, this is quite just a bizarre idea to have him sort of strapped as a puppet to the front of Leatherface.
Yeah. Well, what it is it is the hitchhiker,
Mm-hmm.
that's run over by the big cattle truck
Yep.
from part one, and his twin brother was in Vietnam during Chainsaw 1.
Right.
So the birthmarks on the other side of the face, all the other features, they're on the, this Chainsaw family, has a way of keeping their loved ones around.
Yeah. They're very close, very tight.
Like a buzzsaw.
Hey, hang up, man. Hang up. Hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up.
Yeah! Shoot the bastard!
Well, this seemed to take forever to shoot.
So you also were about to see a bit of gore in this scene.
We're going to see some Tom Savini anatomical correctness coming up. I mean, we decided, oh hell, just go for it, and hopefully we'll get an R rating.
Yeah.
Missed his assholes.
There you go.
Was it difficult to shoot around effects like these?
Well, yeah, it was just hard to shoot. Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to shoot that. That was like a stunt and an effect, because I mean that obviously wasn't the driver's head and hands.
Yeah.
But that was the driver's seat.
Well, they just cut off.
So did you make a conscious decision then that, okay, we held back on the extreme violence in the original in order to differentiate ourselves? Let's go all out and go for the gore in this one.
After the original, and the original, was not that, there was not that much gore on screen, and a lot of it happens in your imagination. The 80s, too, I mean, played a big part of showing the gore, because between middle 70s and the 80s, when this was made, films had gotten extraordinarily graphic. I mean, heads were flying. I mean, it seemed like that if you didn't have gore in a film that was the genre film, that they didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Tom and I thought, well, let's talk about this and give them something they haven't seen before. And Savini was more than inventive and coming up with some very, very good, bizarre and gory details.
You get out of there! Cowboy, get away from there. This is an accident scene. The area is restricted. I'm not going to tell you again.
It's all right, Wendell. Lieutenant Enright, sir. We heard you might be headed this way. Did you come over for the big game?
You know why I'm here.
And of course, this is Dennis Hopper as Lefty Enright.
Yeah, Dennis, yes.
How did you get Dennis involved?
I asked Dennis. I was getting ready to cast the film, and I was in a restaurant. And Dennis was in the restaurant, and I walked over and asked him if he would consider doing the film. He said, let him think about it. And so we talked in a few days and made the deal.
Hell's exactly what they raised.
I think Dennis enjoyed quite a lot of this.
Yeah. Well, this was a good period for him, because after a few years in the wilderness, shall we say, this was around the time he did Blue Velvet and
Yes.
Got nominated for an Academy Award. So.
And then, there was some big film after Blue Velvet. Yeah, he did get
Was it Hoosiers?
Yeah, that was it, Hoosiers, yeah.
Riot. You know what riot means? You were a ranger. Can't hardly keep them down by law, and if you go around promoting this chainsaw...
Trying to speak plain. Saves time.
There was a backstory in this that where Dennis, Lefty Enright, years and years before this film, before this story begins, his backstory, he had a relationship with this woman, and she got pregnant, and then that became Stretch, the Caroline Williams part.
Mm-hmm.
So she never knows that in this, but the backstory is all there, that there is this definite relationship and protection going on. That's why he says, Franklin, they got you too. I mean, he was familiar with all those people when the Caroline Williams, when Stretch was very small.
So she essentially is related to Sally and Franklin from the first film.
Yes, but I don't exactly know what that relationship is.
Zeus!
Remember the Alamo, cowboy?
That's me. I got to throw my Dr. Pepper can.
Asshole. You need a witness? I'm a witness.
So was it this part of the film where you would have given that backstory between Dennis?
No, it was much later. It was much later in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis, I'm sorry, but Lefty Enright had a really bad night of before this sequence, the backstory to the sequence of drinking mezcal, even eating the worm, and chainsaws coming out of the walls and such as that. He was great. I mean, he would before action on these shots, he would spin and spin until he was totally disoriented. So when I said action, he was quite wonderful to work with.
You're just a joke in this morning's paper. Cowboy chases chainsaws 14 years. Dallas police refuse comment like you're, hung up on something crazy. But I believe you. I might be the only believer you got, because it's right here.
What is?
Right on here, those kids getting killed. Now, this is evidence, sort of, right?
Caroline was just unbelievable at that she was just kind of in Austin waiting to be in this movie in a way. I mean, it was bizarre finding her, and that I didn't have to bring an actress from Los Angeles.
Because the original had kind of entered into legend in the Austin area, I think, hadn't it, by this time?
Yeah.
All the stories around its making, in addition to the fact that it was obviously a huge success for an independent film.
Yeah, like the bridge sequence that we just saw. My gosh, the bridge was blocked off, and there was a young man that really wanted to get over into the little town where the camp was, and I had to stop shooting on the bridge scene because we had to go under the bridge to rescue him. He was climbing underneath the bridge, hand over hand, hanging onto pipes and things, and trying to spider his way. We found him and said, "Hey, come on. Come over here and watch this."
I ain't got no fear, Lord.
What about this French fry house?
Yeah.
People do that?
Oh, I don't think so. No. I mean, LG would.
Yeah.
And did.
Hard ass.
Hard ass? Me?
And this is where we get to see, for the first time, we get to see a member of the Chainsaw family actually interacting with other members of society.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes. The award-winning chili cook-off.
OLG.
What made you want to actually show the cook in his kind of day-to-day life, take him out of the environment we've seen him in and into a much more normal environment?
Well, he was actually the only one of the lot that was presentable enough to be in public. And of course, he did interact with public at his little
His gas
station and barbecue stand.
Austin? He's Dallas's favorite caterer. I think he's kind of cute. The last Roundup rolling grill chef, Drayton Sawyer!
You get to put him in a little suit as well.
Yeah, the little suit, yeah. And accepting the award, he would lean the little bowl of chili over under the suit, and the oil and grease would start running down. I think I only had 3 costume changes for Jim in this sequence.
Got to tell the secret of that fabulously tasty chili.
No secret. It's the meat. Don't skimp on the meat.
Can you tell me a bit about Jim in general? How you first met him, because he was the only professional actor in the original, wasn't he?
Yeah. I was in a film. I've forgotten the title of it, but it was a film about motorcycles and in Texas, and he was in it, and that's where I met him, and he was a member of the Alley Theater that was a quite respected theater company in Houston, and this guy was a wicked Shakespearean actor. His King Lear was unreal. And he just seemed to have that weird. I mean, it was just he understood this. He understood the ironic humor. He understood this character.
Now be sure to watch your drinking and driving on this wild and woolly Texas OU weekend. This is Stretch on KO Blue.
Cut right.
Now, I seem to remember you have a story about how, when you first came up with the idea of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you were in a store and there was a wall full of chainsaws. Is this particular scene inspired by that in any way, this chainsaw store?
No, I don't think it is. No. This store, the last I saw it, I was in Austin 3 or 4 years ago, and they still have that Cartwright chainsaw sign up. No, it was an actual store that you buy chainsaws from.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, it's just sitting there, and it was like, wow, what could be better than this? It's total natural. It even had unless Carrie put them out there, and I was unaware of it, but it had the logs out in front that they test the chainsaws on. And a stuntman did some of the chopping into the logs with a chainsaw, because I don't think anyone, knew what would happen if a chainsaw blade actually broke and came flying off. How many heads would go rolling?
So you were going to find out.
Yeah, we're going, and nothing happened, And then also there's a chainsaw fight later in this film too, and the teeth had to be taken down, but when the chains hit, they would actually spark, and it just did some beautiful things.
Yeah, it really seems like Dennis is having some fun with this.
Yeah. It was a local actor that's been in so many Texas films, or films made in Texas. I think he was even in Close Encounters. Not that was made in Texas.
Get them suckers a time or two.
So can you tell me a bit about the writing of this film, getting Kit Carson and how you approached it with him?
I'd worked with Kit on another script, and I liked his work. I liked his sense of humor. I also had a deadline to meet, and that was to get this picture on the screen as soon as possible. And Kit really connected with it, and Kit is also from Texas, and he understands, he understands some of the blood that makes up the mindset. So he became like a natural for it. And then I thought his humor was quite good, and we were constantly working on the scene. Kit worked with this little tiny typewriter that he put under his arm. And, like one of the old journalist kind of little teeny tiny typewriter.
Yeah.
Often he would be typing and we would be talking, and the pages would come straight out of that typewriter to the actor. That happened in Bill Moseley's character a lot, because we found what's funny about that.
Oh, you want to hear it now?
And continued to embellish that, and particularly in the radio station.
I don't think it'd be legal to do that. FCC regulations.
Because it seemed like an interesting transition after Paris, Texas, for Kit to do, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, but then also it seems like he's done that in his career. He wants to do what's not expected of him, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, Kit's always been that way. Kit is quite good. He's a good actor as well.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I should have really put Kit in this film somewhere.
What would you have had in this?
I don't know.
They shy away from piecing it together as murder. They call it accidents, disappearances. You got that last slaughter on tape, you play it on the radio. Maybe then the laws will stop trying to shut me up and start helping me. Besides, give you something real to do.
You said you were going to do this alone.
I need your help, Missy.
Well, you can call me Stretch, Mr. Enright.
Well, now, you can call me Lefty. It's mighty nice doing business with you.
Thanks.
Weren't you originally going to be the producer on this, and then you became the director at a later stage?
Yes, that is right. I met with quite a few of the town's young genre directors at the time, and no one would take it on. They were very career conscious, and they thought, well, if they took this on and it didn't work, it would not look, it wouldn't work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I simply couldn't find anyone, and so I decided, well, okay, I'll go back into that world again. And this time I think I'll enjoy myself.
Because you didn't think that people actually saw the humor in the first one, but there was a lot of humor in the first one.
Yeah, that's after like 8 years or 10 years or something like that, the dark comedy seemed to started popping out, like look what your brother's done to the door, and all of those calls on morals and family behavior. So I was disappointed at first that they didn't see that. So I decided to make sure that it was visible in this.
Last roundup rolling grill. We're still #1. I told you, boys, and I told you, don't call on this phone. Now, damn it, get off. What? What's on the radio? Now don't bullshit me. I can't. I won't. All right, what station? This ain't no joke, boy. I'm tuning it in. That's fair, dude. You've done it again. You cool shit. You buttcrackers, you'll be the death of me yet.
But he's still essentially playing the same character, Cook, as when he was saying, look what your brother did to the door.
Yeah.
He's doing the same thing here.
Yeah, he is.
Mr. assholes.
Come on, Lefty, where are you?
And were Cannon the first studio then that wanted to actually roll the dice and actually take on this holy grail, shall we say?
Well, I had a 3-picture deal with them, and this was the third of the 3 films. And to get this film green-lit, Kit and I into the Cannon building, then we came out, I would say, maybe 3 minutes later, with a green light, set on our way to go do it without a script. And at first we didn't exactly know where we were going, except this family still exists in Texas and hasn't been caught. So now they were in the croissant business with barbecue, selling to the yuppies before the big football games.
A lot of complaints, darling.
LG, it was a request, right? It's listed in the logs as a request. People complain about the request every night, right?
Uh-huh.
It's set during a time in Texas, between Texas-Oklahoma game that's a really big draw for football fans. And people do, kids have, check into hotels and throw chairs through windows, and so there's quite, almost like soccer player fans around this time.
And in this early part of the film, though, you did show a bit more of that, or intend to show a bit more of that in the original script, didn't you?
Yeah, surely did, yes. But it just, sometimes things just don't work out. Hopefully always a film ends up being what it is meant to be, because, you know, halfway through it, if you're shooting it out of sequence, it takes over and starts to tell you what it needs to fill in the dots.
Right. But some of those shots, like the one with Joe Bob Briggs, they were actually shot.
Oh yeah, yeah. But there wasn't in that line of thought, there wasn't enough to complete it and to sew it into the film. Yeah, I forgot the Joe Bob Briggs scene in it,
which I think took place in an underground car park or something like that.
Yeah, or a staircase, or in the park or something like that.
I left her body a mess. You can get away with murder out here. Did you ever learn how to catch?
LG?
Blind what?
Lefty?
I think we're going to see a murder here in a moment that goes on for some time.
And we're about to be introduced to Bill Moseley's character,
Yes.
Chop Top. Now, in the original script, was Chop Top going to be the hitchhiker, or was there always going to be an individual character called Chop Top?
Yes, there was always going to be an original character called Chop Top. I think it was that it shifted to his twin brother and not him at some point during pre-production.
Yeah, because I seem to remember you telling me that originally you wanted to reprise Ed Neal's role, but for one reason or another it didn't work out.
It didn't happen.
Lefty?
This coat hanger has gotten a lot of, has been the subject of a lot of discussions with my director friends over the years.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, no, they love the coat hanger.
Bill Moseley still has the actual coat hanger.
Oh, he does?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And the teeth.
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. I've seen the teeth. I've seen him in recent years with those teeth, actually, yes.
Can't close that. Hi, I know what you're thinking. This is weird, huh? But I can handle it. You know? You're my fave. Me and Bubba.
So can you tell me about the development of this character? Obviously, you know, he's back from Vietnam. He's got a plate in his head.
Right, and he was chopped with a machete, cut a piece of his head off, and now he's getting checks from the government as well as his own little business here. And it was really interesting the way I found Bill. I was either shooting or in prep on Poltergeist, and I got a beta tape that came to my office in the mail, and the title on it was The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it was a little film that Bill Moseley made where he played the hitchhiker, and so I thought, oh God, you know, he's doing a great job. This is a great. It's even more than an impersonation of the guy. It is a character that embodies this hitchhiker that he's doing. When he was cast, I'd never met Bill Moseley. I just said, oh, well, you know, did great, go get him. Tom Savini had already shaved his head, and he was part of the way into his makeup and into the casting of his makeup, or he was sitting in a makeup chair. I don't know if he had a cast on or not. He couldn't have, because he recalls seeing me, and I walked in smoking a cigar, and we shook hands, and then the next thing he knew, he was on the set.
There's the lamp. And there's the exit sign. Tour's over.
E-X-I-T. Exit.
And how much of this is I mean, was the character this outrageous when it started, or did it become more and more outrageous as the show went on?
It became more and more outrageous as the character started to reveal itself. I could see in the character and in the performer, you know, a very good stage to place all of these other things that I wanted to play with theatrically, and bizarre, twisted, comedic arena.
You know, that lefty request record that you honked out today? I love that.
Yeah, as soon as Bill understood, I mean, he totally twigged this coat hanger, and the moment he understood it, you see this heating process, the sterilization of the end of it. Well, if he's lucky and hits just the right spot, the skin is loose. He tries to keep the skin from adhering to the plate altogether, because he's discovered that there's a little spot just under the plate that if he gets that heated coat hanger, touches this little area of his brain, he instantly gets off. And so that's his, you could call it a sex toy, actually.
Yeah.
What's in here?
Record vault.
Oh, where you keep the golden oldies and maybe the new music's in there.
That was a dodgy effect.
Can we talk a little bit about the Leatherface mask?
Yes.
It's a little bit different than how it is in the first one. The first one's, you know, it's a bit more raw, and obviously Tom Savini has made it more like, you know, several faces stitched together.
Right.
Did you discuss with Tom how you wanted the Leatherface face to look?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yeah. The original is quite scary, I must say. It's like parchment. But yeah, I wanted an ear visible, you know, somewhere in the neck, I think. I wanted extra, you know, faces sewn together, actually, to create a face, stitched together with several faces.
Oh, he's going to send me back to the VA hospital with his dent in my plate.
He's a filthy creature, this.
Well, at least you didn't mess me up. Dog wheel hunt! Get that bitch, Leatherface! Get that bitch!
And all his sayings like dog will hunt.
Yeah.
You know, that were these things that came up as the show was going on, or was that stuff that was already in there? He's got so many catchphrases.
Yeah, I think dog will hunt. I think that's a Kit Carson phrase that Kit, I think, had used in shall we say, real life. But I can't remember. It's like music is my life, and
lick my plate, you dog dick.
Yeah.
It's a particular favorite.
Lick my plate, you dog dick. Yeah, that's a great line.
Music is my life!
And what about Bill Johnson, who was your Leatherface here?
Yeah, Bill was in Texas, and quite a good actor. Bill has been in several films, probably more films than I know of. I mean, he was in the remake of DOA that had just been shot in Austin.
Goes inside your haunted head.
Lou has worked on and off for a long time. He was in the sheriff in Boys Don't Cry. He's a total good vibe contribution to this world, and I was really happy with Lou in this film.
Hey, lick my plate, you dog dick!
What the fuck you think you're doing in here, you crazy looking little son of a bitch? Get out of here!
Here you really establish that, okay, the killings in this are going to be extreme.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you've got a little joke in there. He spits a loogie.
Yes, he does.
And he gets hit over the head with the hammer, I don't know how many times.
It looks like hundreds of times.
Yep.
I mean,
I remember watching this with my sister when I can't remember what age I was, but I was quite young. And she was just going, oh no, not again. And it just did not stop.
Yeah, and it keeps going.
Which I thought was great.
Yeah, it was kind of like, this is one hell of a hard guy to punch his lights out.
Yeah, particularly as he's still alive later in the film.
Yeah, right.
That was another thing as well. You have Leatherface doing kind of a little dance quite a lot in this film. He holds the chainsaw above his head and he does a little dance. Is that kind of a throwback to the last scene in the original
Oh,
film?
yeah, yes. Yeah, you know, if you start playing around with a chainsaw, you find yourself that's about. You can either do one or two things with it, and that's dance with it, or or cut something with it.
Yep.
This saw he's using, I have this saw at home, and it's quite heavy. You're gonna have a little bit of almost a chainsaw rape here. I mean, it's what's.
Yeah, you definitely add a sexual element to Leatherface's character in this as well, which is a heterosexual element when you consider that, it was very ambiguous.
Yeah. Well, you can see throughout this film as he gets really turned on to this girl. He doesn't quite know what to do with those feelings. I mean, he's very, very much, a part of the family. I mean, family is so important in this tribe, and he has a total dilemma. He doesn't exactly know what to do with her and these feelings. And he's getting some new feelings here, I think, that he just hasn't experienced before.
And she's playing up to it.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's teaching him new things without knowing that she is.
How good are you? Huh?
Yeah, I think in some way here she sparks to being able to control him.
You also, make it very clear, obviously, that the chainsaw is a phallic symbol, which became a part of film criticism in the 80s about horror movies, and the fact that the knife or whatever it was that the guy chasing the woman was basically
right.
It was basically the rape, and so you're making it quite obvious here.
Yeah. Yes. No. I'd already read all of those things.
Yeah.
And in particular about the knife, tall buildings, and all of that.
Yeah.
Are you really? Really? Good?
Yeah, he just doesn't know how to deal with this strange proposal.
Really good. You're really good.
Can you talk a little bit about the contrast of the production of this film versus the first one? Because this was a pretty big budget film, wasn't it? Whereas the first one obviously was micro budget.
Yeah.
Would you say, you had more luxury because you had more money on this film? Or does it bring with it, hardships no matter what?
Well, it brings hardships. But then again, making films it brings hardships. Anyway, I mean, no matter, under the best of conditions, it's almost impossible to make a film. There's so many details in each and every shot, and there's so much going on in the circus camp that you're unaware of, too, as a director. Because, my mind is, directing is always focused on, this moment and through a particular 35 millimeter aperture that's in space, acting as a proscenium. But what goes on in the circus is like sometimes unreal. All kind of plots going on back there where the Winnebagos are.
Leatherface! Hey. Did you get her, Bubba? Did you get that bitch? Hey. She was my favorite, but she knew. And now, nobody knows.
What size crew did you have on this film versus on the original, for example?
Oh, I don't know. It was huge. I mean, there was the original film. Everything could fit into, say, a truck the size of the truck that was the van that was the van in the film, in the original film, or two of them. In fact, the van in the film, the original film that we used was one of the transportation vans.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, parenthetically on this, that was totaled 2 or 3 days after the production of the original film because it ran into a cow going at something like 40 miles an hour. But I mean, this was like trucks and trailers and hundreds of people.
And was it all shot in Austin, the studio stuff as well?
The Texas Battleground was shot about 30 miles outside Austin, something like that. But yes, it was all right down to the last insert was shot there.
God damn it, Lefty, you're late.
The 3 films that you made for Canon were Invaders from Mars, Life Force, and this.
And this, yes.
Was this one lower budget than the other 2, or were they all pretty much the same?
This was less expensive than Life Force. I don't know by what, because one thing I've definitely learned is that you hear numbers that become just that, numbers. I mean, I don't know what's really spent. I know how many days I put in. I know how many hours a day I work. But as far as what something costs, I'm not entirely sure.
Can you talk a bit about this set and how it's the new abode of the Chainsaw family?
Yeah. Well, as the 80s approached and they got more affluent with their barbecue business, they opened this little Texas Battleground. There was a little amusement park that played out, kind of didn't work, but they keep taking their the distribution of their fine barbecued product goes to cities like Dallas, Houston, Austin. And so their lair is here at the remains of this Texas Battleground. This was, outside Austin, an actual little kind of theme park that had been, more than one times this place has been run over by a tornado. Those heavy iron curved arches At the other end of the lot of those things, it was all twisted and mangled where a tornado came through. And it may have been this very night. It was certainly one of these nights of shooting at this. And a lot of shooting was done here. It was one of those nights where the lightning in Texas is like, you know, to the left it lightnings, to the right, to the front, to the rear. And it's like, you know, a strike every second and a half. The wind picks up and the battlefield sign blew off the mountains, and I was in my trailer studying for the next shot, and the damn trailer was shaking and rocking, and then Laura Couris, who was the script supervisor, and Richard Couris was the DP of this, her husband. She came to me and she was, and I'd been out of Texas for a long time and I'd forgotten some of the tornado fear, and she said, you know, this is really, really, really bad to be here tonight, and you know, and the trailer was almost like on a gimbal, you know, the wind was hitting it, and then we'd heard the report that a tornado not far from here, I mean, I'm talking about like 2 miles, a mile. They counted the next day that it had gone down into a herd of cattle and picked up about 40 or 50 cows and flung them for miles. And so this was quite an evening, an electrical storm that, you know, I would pay $100 to see. You know, I mean, it was just fantastic.
Oh, my God.
So basically, the Chainsaw Family, though, they came into the Texas battleground after it had closed down.
Yeah.
And was this all created, or was this part of actually there?
That part was actually there. The statues, God, I have no idea where Carrie found them, but they were brought in. The interior, there may be some of the tunnels, I believe it was used for the interior, some of those metal archways that I think we covered, put foam on the inside to make it look like rock. I like this, the big hand and the knife.
Now, did you also want to kind of take it away from the realm of reality once you go into the underground here, because the first one was so well known for its realism and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, you know, from the very beginning of this, it started demanding its own look,
Mm-hmm.
and its own, and I think that came out of character behavior, because that's really where I start with a film, is not so much the look of it, but character and behavior. The gut wall, man. Tom Savini did not spend all his time making those. That was a almost certain a rendering plant operation.
I'm bringing it down! Down, down! Bring it all down! Bring it all down!
Now, you were saying you were working on a very tight deadline on this film. Were you able to get it all done in time, or did you have to make certain compromises? Or
It doesn't look like there's any compromises from watching the film. I mean, I just don't recall. I know the deadline. The deadline wasn't so much a shooting deadline, though, as it was a deadline for distribution, a distribution window that I had to make.
And were the Canon people heavily involved in the production, or did they generally leave you alone?
They pretty much left me alone. There was a moment of kind of intrigue towards the end of shooting, but I've seen much worse. Really not quite enough to talk about.
Tonight, that's mine. My hit. That Bubba's me. Oh, button it up. Want to go to the movies? No crowds. Everybody's at the football parties, huh? Tonight's so awesome. Biggest meat eater weekend of the month, and we're gonna lose money on it. Damn it all. Maybe just on a clip. Oh, yeah? Kiss my plate, Mr. Big Shot. Maybe you forgot. This chrome don't bankroll this business. No lucky goose with a machete, no head wound. No head wound, no fancy rolling grill and go-go. Ain't no fool. Kiss it, don't forget it.
I don't know if you can tell by this, but the smokehouse is entirely made of human skulls.
Hogs on the grill. Big pregame brunch tomorrow means a ton of croissant sandwiches. Oh, I love this town. Hey, you nitwits back in here, get the grill on.
Was Jim happy to come back then and reprise the role?
Yeah, very happy. Yeah, he was absolutely delighted.
Because even when I interviewed him years later, he was still very, very proud to be associated with both of these films.
Yeah, he was just great. William Hooper, my son, made a lot of the bone furniture, and he was in the art department on this one. He made some of the tools, some of the. I think there's a cleaver coming up here pretty soon. A meat cleaver that has some kind of bone handle. But there's actually some elaborate artwork towards the end of this film, with skulls and various bones. Some of Tom's.
Yeah, Tom was quite the superstar for doing this kind of thing.
Yes. Tom had learned what the inside of a human body looks like in a most unfortunate way, I think. He certainly knew.
And how would you work with Tom? Did you discuss what it was you wanted at the beginning of the film and say, okay, have at it, I know what you're doing?
Yeah, I said go for it. It seems that I remember just saying, let's go for it and get an R rating. But they were like, Friday the 13th, and there was quite a lot of bloodletting in movies in this decade.
Did you have run-ins with the MPAA on this film?
No, they just simply wouldn't rate it. I mean, there was no run-in. They just simply said, hey, this one, you just forget about it. The only way you can cut enough out of this movie to satisfy us is to put it in a can and put it in a closet somewhere, The title sequence, maybe.
So how did that go down with Canon or whoever was distributing it? Because were you required to deliver an R-rated movie?
No. You hope for an R, and I was surprised that it was either NC-17 or X. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was pre-NC-17, so it would have been unrated.
Yeah. And so they preferred to just go out unrated than put an X on it, and that's a severe thing to do to a movie too. It limited how they could publicize the film, and television spots. A lot of newspapers wouldn't run ads.
But do you think that ultimately harmed the box office potential of the film, or do you think that actually added to it for the horror fans?
Yeah, I think really the hardcore fans, it would have added to it. It's hard to say. That and in that it's this really surreal black comedy. I think probably the mainstream audience expected more of the same, like from the original film. Startles and chair jumpers and deeply disturbing, disturbing in a different way.
Put that down. What is that? Is it wet? It's wet. Put it down.
How did Caroline handle things such as having LG's face put onto her face?
I remember Caroline really going with the moment and not having. She only had a couple of problems, I think, as I recall. And one may have been, I'm not even sure, I don't even recall what it was, but not this scene. But then again, just to clean up the mess after each take on this, would have been enough to be problematic.
Now, I suppose one of the inevitable questions is why you didn't bring back Gunnar Hansen as Leatherface. Was it because he was no longer in the business? Or?
No, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it's because he didn't live there anymore, and or it could have been that I was out of touch with him. I'm not sure. Here's this LG scene. If you didn't see the tattoo, well, then you're definitely going to see the loogie.
It's an amazing piece of makeup. I've never actually seen it so clear before.
Yeah.
VHS copies. You can't see all the detail. But I think Fangoria published a poster of it where it was a real close-up, so you can see all the details.
Yeah. No, you can. It's pretty amazing what Tom did, because when the mask comes off, it really fits like a puzzle piece in back to his poor face there. He's way messed up. He's nuts.
He said Lou Perryman said in a recent interview that he thought it was strange that Leatherface would have left his boxers on when he was skinning him alive. So he offered to do it butt naked. That was even too much for this film.
Yeah, well, I still had hopes of getting a rating,
Yeah.
while I was shooting it. I'd forgotten that, but yeah, I mean, he would have. I mean, Lou is totally dedicated to this.
I guess I'm falling apart on you, honey.
So how did the film actually end up doing when it came out?
It did kind of okay. It did great on video. You know, as I recall, it's went double platinum on video, but I have no idea how many screens. It was a fairly wide release, as I recall, for then. You know, it's not like today's 4,000 theater releases, but it was probably, I don't know, 1,200 theaters, maybe, something like that. And then, you know, the hardcore genre fans went, and then word of mouth finally prepared you for the differences between the two films. And it's taken actually a long time to see the film as a kind of separate, kind of a relative of the first film. This surreal, expensive, and I say that expensive too, talking about the 80s and the metaphors of the 80s that this film has in it.
Because of course now it has a lot of fans, you know, would have seen at the time that there was a certain amount of disappointment, you know, which was probably inevitable considering the film that it was following. But now it has people who, you know, some people who actually like it more than the first one.
Yeah, no, I know it has definitely come into its own.
Well, it probably helps that there's been other sequels and now remakes as well.
Right.
And, you know, it does actually stand out as quite a unique piece.
You know, it's truly a beautiful cinematic work. There's a cinematic style to it that makes it appealing.
He says, hey, those lawyers, legal media, corporate electi. Half an hour of valuable kill time wasted running down them coked up pencil necks and not a good chop on the whole bunch. I picked the middles, get it? Me, nobody but Bubba, you whole wicked soft dusted again, huh? That's the main support beam you got. Fuck you idiots! If vultures had balls, you'd both be bitches. Look what your brother's done.
It's kind of the thing I've wanted and have been doing recently with film, taking it into a kind of almost opera. I'm not talking about characters singing, but I'm talking about a dramatic scenario that is traveling in your mind to process with music that helps the aperture expand. I was trying quite a few stylistic things in this, and my director friends totally appreciated this film in its day, and you would be surprised of the names that I could mention that this is their favorite film.
Mm-hmm.
Or then again, maybe you wouldn't be surprised.
Take it all out! Bring it all out! Bury the devil! May the Lord have mercy on our souls!
Get that thing out of here! Maybe it cracked the main butane tank. It's up there. Go look at it.
So what about these three actors acting together? Did they have a good dynamic amongst each other as the family? You know, did it just kind of spiral into this crazy Thanksgiving dinner of a scene?
Yeah, yes, they did. Yes.
Ball businessman gets it in the ass every time.
Right! It's junk. Quit. Dump this cook show. Sell off this turkey. It's time. It's in the air. It's what the public wants.
I don't want to hear that again.
There's a little spark that happens here.
Ow!
That spark of Z16s you just saw. After this take, after I called cut, that whole back wall turned into flames back there, and we almost lost the set. And the crew was pitching in, pulling those bags, those burlap bags that covers the wall, and everyone pitched in. The fire department was there really quickly.
Butane tank up there. Go look at it. Get your butt moving, boy. Go up and look at it. Go look at it. Now, kick you in the ass again.
Longland! It's a hit, it's a bang, it's a smash!
Got him up, Bubba.
Now, Jim being the more experienced actor of these three, am I right in saying that he'd probably done more work in acting than the other two
Probably
guys?
so.
Did they kind of look up to him as the guy to lead the way that the family would interact?
If not, they should have. You know, it would have been the way for them to go. I mean, I was quite in there as the father of a lot of this madness.
Madness, yeah.
Big crazy booger. That's all but, bro.
This is Franklin, which is another thing that brings us back to...
Yeah, to the backstory, the subtext. Somehow it seems like Franklin's skeleton would have been... Never mind.
What, a little bigger?
Yeah, you got that. But then that isn't the way it works, right? No. I mean, nature breaks things down.
I'm here now.
In its own way.
I'm here now. They can't do this. They can't do this.
Those extra chainsaw chains hanging on his... Chop Top's utility belt had some really interesting things in it, from Harpo Marx kind of bicycle horns.
I'll take you back to hell! I'll take you to hell!
Did an extraordinary job on the original film. I mean, some of his bone creations were like well, I saw one at Sotheby's, actually in a catalog. They were selling it one of the masks. It took a small army of people to create, and all of these designs. I mean, this cyclorama, panorama thing of corpses at the beach and this and that. I mean, there's people cutting bones with bandsaws and bones too, because there were so many skeletons needed. I found out that to purchase real skeletons were less expensive than plastic ones.
Oh, is that right? So where do you get so many real skeletons?
India is the only place that you can legally buy skeletons from. I don't know why that is. It's interesting. They cost a little more. A full-grown skeleton with perfect teeth are a little more expensive.
That's very interesting.
It is. I mean, it brings up, like, how under those conditions, how would you? I mean, where would you get an adult skeleton with perfect teeth? I almost did a film after that realization called Skeleton Farm.
Yeah. And what would that have been about?
Well, it would have been about the pampering of a culture, pampering almost like Kobe beef, you know. I mean, really protecting the animal, taking good care, dental work, make sure the brushing is done, make sure it grows up just properly, no broken bones, you know. We have the best skeletons for any pharmaceutical company or any school anatomy class in the business.
Luckily, you didn't need skeletons with perfect teeth.
No,
so you could
no.
have-
It came in under budget on skeletons.
The saboteur that's fucking up our house, trying to put me out of business. Thousands of dollars lost. You got that kind of money?
No! It's the DJ, my fave.
That dirty thing told me you boys got her.
Well, yeah, Leatherface killed her once already tonight. But look, she's red-faced. Bubba's been playing with her. Bubba likes her. Bubba's got a girlfriend. 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 Bubba's got a girlfriend.
Is that what this is, Bubba? The old cock and cunt swindle, huh?
Did you really want to give Bubba a bit more personality than he had in the first one? Then is that what you wanted to explore?
There was no avoiding that. I mean, you know, looking at this, you know, Bubba had to respond in kind and behave appropriate to the situation that he was in now. So it was a little, you know, it was just more in your face. Usually the antagonistic character you don't get to know as well as this, you know, unless it's under these conditions, being a kind of comedy. That isn't really what this is, but I'm trying to figure out what exactly genre this would be.
Well, it's certainly a precursor to the extreme horror comedy of the likes of House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yes.
You know, there's comedy in that film as well.
Yes.
Very reminiscent of this.
Finish her now! Finish her now, Bubba! Finish her! Finish her! Give me that. Turn traitor for a piece of tail. You got one choice, boy. Sex or the saw. Sex is, well, nobody knows. But the saw is family.
It's family.
Wait till Granddad hears about this. Take her away.
Why would you give him the name Bubba when, you know, even the characters refer to him as Leatherface in the original?
I don't know, but, you know, these are memories from details from long ago.
Yeah.
And it was probably someone's name was Bubba.
When I was in Texas doing the documentary, I mean, there was a lot of people telling me that Bubba is, you know, is very specific to Texas, and a very specific name for a specific kind of person.
It is, yeah.
Dinner time, damn it, let's go! Eat and run! Eat and run! There's a lot of hungry football fans to feed. Hurry it up! Grandpa likes to go fast. He always did. Come on! Come on!
And of course, we're starting the dinner scene now, and the dinner scene is similar to the dinner scene in the original.
Yeah.
And the dinner scene has also occurred in both of the sequels to this, Part 3 and Part 4. Why do you think, as a third act narrative structure, that it keeps on being reused in the Chainsaw films?
The films I didn't direct or write, I don't know, but central to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the family, is of course dinner scenes or dinner. And as I recall, you know, as a young boy growing up in Texas, dinner time, especially if it's a large family occasion, was the place that you could get in more trouble with your family. I mean, it's kind of where resentment and all kind of things spark up out of dinner time. That is in a world that I have observed.
And bringing the girl home for dinner to meet the family as well, of course.
Yes, yes. There's something about that, you know, sitting around a campfire, sharing and eating and bring something interesting out.
Grandpa's strict liquid diet keeps him as fresh as a rose. Every spring, the Atlas Rendering Company used to throw a big barbecue for Grandpa. Oh, he was the master. He was the one and only. He showed us all this business.
We bring Grandpa out here as well.
Oh, Grandpa's got to, yeah.
How is Grandpa still alive at this point?
Oh, Grandpa, well, he'll tell you. It says fresh liquid diet. They make sure Grandpa has the proper colonic treatments and such as that. Those old guys, the old blood drinkers, you know, I'm talking about the people in the slaughter business, you know, where blood sausage came from, things like that. I mean, they'd live a long time. I mean, that was the story, you know, that these blood drinkers would live longer.
Mm-hmm.
There's Grandpa to testify to this.
One morning, Grandpa just quit going in. It was the shame. It was the shame. The shame. There's more work to do. Let's get on with it.
Right, let's get on with it. Bingo!
Get that tub over there in a hurry. Do I have to do every damn thing around here? You just... Bubba, she's ready. Bring her on down. Bring her on down, damn it!
Were you approached to do any of the other ones after this, or did you want to take a step away after this one?
Oh, I wanted to take a step away after this.
But you were involved in the remake to an extent, weren't you?
Yeah, yes, but you know, in production.
Let me go! Let me go, please help me!
This will be one you won't forget. It's a real honor. Grandpa, he's a one-hitter. And it's just like going home.
No, please help me! No, God! Help me! Let me go! Let me go! Help me, please! Please help me!
Let's go see Grandpa, boy!
No, God!
I loved in the original film too, and Jim Sito totally understood this schizophrenic kind of thing that he was doing between this being something that he's enjoying, and then he pulls back and decides, no, that this is wrong for him to be enjoying things such as this, and then he'll kind of reprimand himself.
He doesn't do that so much in this one, though, does he? He's more kind of just entered the deranged phase.
He did just a moment ago at the table. Bring her on down, boy. And he looks around. He kind of skitzes himself, but no, not in the way he did in the original. He's come to terms with this by now. See, by Chainsaw 2, he's the character.
Here's the big boy. Look what Bubba brought you. Hey, Grandpa, Bubba's got something to show you here. Look, a slurpy booty.
Eat her, Grandpa.
Okay, come on, Grandpa. Let's see you do it. Come on, Grandpa. You're the best.
Eat her, Grandpa.
Come on.
Eat her, Grandpa.
Come on. Jimmy, remember those beeves? Come on. One hitter, Bob. Come on, Grandpa. Come on, you're the best.
Sometime after the original film, capturing video and having it and being able to play movies back all the time. 80.
It was early 80s, wasn't it?
It was early 80s, yeah. And until then, you know, we took it home as a memory and couldn't break it down and study it.
Do you think that's better or worse?
Oh no, I think it's good. If you want to see the construction of a film, it's good. And it's very good that there's home theater and 16:9 and DVD and 5.1.
that grandma we saw at the table before as well?
No, that's Nubbins.
Oh, that was Nubbins.
That's
sitting
Nubbins,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Grandma's up in Chainsaw Heaven right now. You'll hear him say it, and that's up at the top of the Matterhorn. That's what
Of course, yeah.
I
The
saw
little
the
shrine.
Paramount logo on this. That's the end of the movie is Carolina up in the.
That's right, up with Grandma in a big kind of bone shrine.
Yeah, in Chainsaw Heaven.
Bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves.
Oh, shut up!
Come rejoicing,
What the hell's
bringing
going
in
on
the sheaves.
Oh, and in the morning, sowing seeds of kindness,
Sowing in the noontime,
waiting for the harvest.
When Dennis jumps down from this distance, it's a thing called a swap-off gag. You'll see him jump, and then you'll see him recover from the jump and walk into a close-up, and it's like that's a stunt man. Then down under the frame is Dennis. Then he comes up.
Boys.
What the hell's going on here? That the American way of entering a man's home singing like that?
I think that's an important line for some reason.
Boys, you never should have been doing this.
Who sent you? Those sissies over at Delmar Catering?
Were you involved in the music in this one? the same way
Yes,
you
I
were in
was.
the original.
Yeah.
So you actually did a pretty major score for this film, whereas it was more noises first time around.
Yeah, it was more synthesizer samples.
But Wayne Bell did work on this film.
Wayne Bell was the sound production mixer on this, which means he was behind the Nagra and capturing all this dialogue. Wayne is quite possibly one of the best production mixers in the business. Wayne really understands sound and good sound. And I remember at the time mixing the film that all the mixers were blown away with the quality of production sound. Very little ADR in this.
Lefty,
Sister.
Lefty.
It's not relevant to this film, but can you explain, speaking of Wayne Bell, can you explain how you did the noise at the beginning of the first film, which goes
that noise? If I told you, Wayne, I can't really tell you without Wayne's permission.
Oh, fair enough.
Because he and I are.
You're gonna keep that a secret.
Yeah, something should be a secret, and it's out there anyway, Pete.
Yeah. Can you talk about the choreography of the chainsaw scene here? Is it mainly stuntmen? And
Yeah, it's back and forth between stunts and the principal players. There are a couple of scenes in here that you're looking at the stuntman's face and not lefty and right, and it's just happening so quickly that you don't notice.
you didn't actually have blades on the chainsaw here.
No, had the spiraling chain, but we'd taken the teeth off. So these were truly elaborate sets. The production design team just there's Nubbins having dinner and his Big Red. I forgot about Big Reds.
What's that?
Well, that's that drink he had, the straw going into that bottle of red fluid, red soda pop that is some kind of berry or Big Red, and those big round, I think they call them moon pies or something like that in the South. I have no idea. I think it's manufactured though in Texas.
Well, it's nice that they keep him as a part of the family. I noticed Chopped Up earlier did the coat hanger thing with his own head and then did it to Nubbins.
Oh, he did. Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't matter. That he's been dead for 20
Anthropomorphism.
years.
Yeah, right. He's putting as much life into Nubbins as he can. He's sharing what he can.
Yeah. Okay, how did you do this?
Okay. Well, it was like an arrow through the head gag. The chainsaw went in, and then the off-camera side cables went around to the fitting. I mean, it was like a body harness, and then cables went around and operated the saw on the other side.
Fuck you, Charlie, huh?
Let me take a look. Yeah, so it would have been mounted on the. Now that went entirely around. That's part of a bodysuit. So it would have been a brace that went around the entire waist.
And was it important to you to actually kill off the family in this one, so this would be the end?
You mean what I was thinking then?
Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, it basically blows up, and let's face it, the cook, Leatherface, and Grandpa are going to be dead.
Yeah. Well, there must have been something like that going on.
Free trade by hooking and crooking. And then kerflooey! The gods just...
And Nubbins.
And Nubbins, yeah, Nubbins and shreds.
Not this time.
Would you say that this is your most outrageous film?
Probably so, yeah. I think I'm definitely going to return to this outrageous kind of theater. I am working on something that's totally outrageous.
I got the last laugh right here!
Well, this is reminiscent as well of the original, where it basically breaks out of the mayhem into the daytime.
Into the daytime, yeah.
For the final showdown.
Yeah, and it has that big-time chainsaw dance at the end, only now it's Stretch.
Exactly. You could be suggesting that she could be starting the next generation of the family.
Absolutely. And, it also shows the strength of women, as the first film did.
The first film had a surviving female at the end, which became the way all horror movies in the late 70s and 80s were. There would be the surviving female who beats the monster. I can't think of any horror films that did that before Chainsaw.
I can't either.
So here she's no longer just being kept upstairs. She's actually in Chainsaw Heaven,
Yeah,
as you say. So
she's definitely, she's shrined out. And
she's bloated a bit.
yes, she did, didn't she? Well, that's what that kind of respect does. She has a family that loves her.
Yeah.
I did a film a few years ago where the stuntman playing Bill here, I shot him out of a cannon or something, and he reminded me, he told me that he did some of the gags on this.
Mm-hmm.
Get in now. Get in.
That's an incredible work of art. That
Bone mobile, yeah.
yeah.
My face. Look. Look! It's like death eating a cracker, isn't it? Huh? Huh?
She's cornered, and she'll take whatever action it takes to survive or
Yeah.
not. You know, I mean, she's committed.
Well, she's also about to crack a bit like Sally does at the end. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go for a night like that, it's going to take it out of you. isn't it?
I think it would. Yes.
Grandma! 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 You killed her, you hog bitch!
This is reminiscent of the first one.
Yeah, the
As
cutting
well,
up at the back, yeah.
Cutting the back with a razor, yeah.
Brotherly trait.
Yeah. There you go.
And he goes right down the,
Right back into the chute, right back down into
to join the family.
to join the family. Yes.
How did you get this shot?
Just with a long lens from a good distance.
What is it about Texas that you think lends itself to having characters like this? You know, just lost in the middle of nowhere.
Well, that's it's a big state. that would be a very good question for Kit Carson.
Yeah. But you'd lived in Texas for a good part of your life as well, though, didn't you?
No, not a good part of my life. I lived there quite a long time. I think I was still in my late teens, maybe, when I started the move to California.
Right.
And Murphy beds at the living in a place with that Max Sennett used to live at. The Garden Court Apartments. The suite still had Murphy beds, that you pull down from, the gag beds that you get closed up in and you never come out.
Back home, you got a loving wife. She can't hear you calling out here.
I can't say enough, actually, about how I appreciate everyone pitching in on this film the way they did and giving it all.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. We're just film fanatics doing what we do. Dick Curris did an incredible job of DPing this film. Curris and I go way, way back. I dare say Curris wouldn't even know.
Had you worked with Curris before in a director DP capacity, or you just knew each other?
We just knew each other, and he taught at one time at UT, taught film. I don't know, we were just like friends, even before my student film and before The Heisters and way back.
Strange things happen to a man who's alone.
Looking back now, you haven't seen it in a couple of years. How do you rate Chainsaw 2 in your canon of films?
Oh, it's way up there. I very much like this movie.
You basically obviously made a big splash with the first film, a film that's never going to be forgotten. Are you a fan of the genre, or did you kind of fall into it because of that? Are you happy to be associated with the horror genre?
Yeah, yes, I am. Yeah, and yes, I'm a fan of the genre. And so far as the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it was, one of those gifts, I think. Yeah, I'm a fan of thrillers, suspense. Also, I'm a fan of epic films and films such as Night of the Iguana and, John Huston and Polanski films, Chinatown. If I covered all my bases there, if not, let me know.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.